Lieutenant Commander Argyle says Mr. Kaczynski's methods are meaningless. A targ is on the bridge, and space and time and thought aren't the separate things they appear to be. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 5, Where No One Has Gone Before, written by Diane Duane and Michael Reeves. More on him in a moment. Directed by Rob Bowman. This was October 26th, 1987. Where were you? Of course, this entire first season is sponsored by Tim Baum, a.k.a. Grandpa One. Thank you to him. Go team. How you guys doing?
Really nice. Good. Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I said go team because I couldn't remember what Tim Baum's favorite team is, but you know he's always freaking out about it. So just go that team. It's
Liverpool.
Football.
Something
I think
like
so.
That.
Football. Anyway, boy oh boy, this one was every one of these so far is different than I remember them. And some I barely remember at all. And for me personally, I was like, whoa, I don't remember this episode getting so exciting in the middle. Like, and I loved the music scoring. I was just kind of like, it felt more, I felt more emotionally invested, like, you know, the highs and lows of emotions in this episode. But I don't know, what did you guys think of this one?
Well, you know, before I watched it, I had absolutely no recollection of this episode whatsoever. I when you had mentioned, you know, Eric being part of it, I went, oh, okay, well, that's the one that he's in. But I couldn't remember I remembered what he looked like, but I couldn't remember what he did. And so while watching it, I started to piece it together again. I mean, I don't have a lot in this episode. This is where it begins to, you know,
finally got a little bit of time off. You were heavily focused
you would think, but I'm still there on that bridge, you know, so I'm still there. But it was, you know, when I was watching it, I really loved the heart that the character of the Traveler, you know, brings to this onto this bridge, and his thoughtfulness and his compassion and for humanity, you know, in really a beautifully deep way. He really he did a beautiful job in it.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody, forgot to mention at the top, the Traveler himself, legendary actor Eric Menyuk, will be joining us in just a few in the second segment here. So stay tuned for that. Can't wait to talk with him. Sorry, Cirroc, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that, I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was fun, interesting. There was a level of curiosity there about what was going on. You know, there was a point there where you're trying to guess in front of the story. At least I was. So I'm thinking, okay, so what's going to happen? Who's the villain? Who's the, you know, what is this about? And it did have several unexpected twists that I couldn't really foresee while I was watching it. So I enjoyed that part of it.
That's true. There was no villain, now that you mention it. There was the antagonist was just that
Kaczynski was kind of,
I kept, you know, at one point I was going, why is this guy, why isn't he in the, you know, arrested on the ship? Right?
Totally.
I mean, the guy is a total, you know, villain. I mean, he's BS'd his way in, plus his attitude and his arrogance, and he really doesn't know. I mean, he is messed up badly,
and he's a maniac. Like, he looked. I mean, they cast him perfectly. The second you see him, you're like, that dude's insane.
Oh God, you know, just his body language, everything about him. But I mean, logically, I'm thinking, why is this guy walking around? So why is he even allowed to speak? Of course,
they need him.
It's redeemed when the Traveler says, "I need you." He goes, "Oh, you need me." You know, it's like Okay, I guess that satisfies that. But I would have arrested that guy, put him away, and if the Traveler needs him at the end to sit there on the console, bring him out
in chains
for that. Yeah, because it was like this guy. I don't get that part of the logic.
Yeah, that was, there's sometimes when you just have to suspend certain things. And I had to suspend a few things in order for me to continue on with the storyline. That was one of the biggest ones. Right away I was noticing, like, why doesn't he have a comm badge on? So, he's walking around and he has no insignia on him. So I'm thinking,
no bling.
That's like a police officer without a badge. So, totally. I don't really, let me see your credentials, like, who are you? Where you, I don't really know that he has credentials. So that was the first thing that caught my eye, was like, where's this dude Starfleet, comm badge?
Right. And this is dictated by Starfleet, that this guy is coming on and to check the warp speed and do
which
tests.
Is also weird.
Which is weird, right? They don't know that this is a big scam, and he's got this alien free. I mean, this alien's been doing it on these other ships. The same thing's been going on.
And
he's
Riker's
there and fading in and out.
Yeah, and we've got Riker is onto him from the very beginning. Riker knows from the very beginning this guy's full. So how come Starfleet, in their infinite wisdom, isn't keeping an eye on him or saying, or there aren't reports from previous ships? I forgot the Fearless and the Ajax, obviously fearful because they didn't want to say anything. But like, and the first thing when he starts talking all of his talk, thank goodness they said what they did, because I was like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. And they're like, it sounds meaningless. I'm like, thank you. Somebody else notices it. I have no idea what this guy's saying.
Yeah. I mean, it took me I kept thinking of my husband when he said the few times he's watched these with me. I look at him and I go, do you understand anything that just happened? He never understands a word of these shows.
I thought you were going to say that he talks in that same, like, where he's like, oh, you got to fix the power converter on your way. And you're like, I don't know.
Are you kidding me? He is like the least likely human being. Even improvising this stuff. Although he's pretty good at parodying it all. But he would watch this show. There's no way he would understand what the hell just happened. I mean, I was having trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where, when the alien guy comes in, and this is a species that no one has seen before, apparently, I felt that the level of curiosity wasn't high enough. What is the species? What are your gifts or talents or abilities?
Tau Alpha C. That's all we got.
Right.
No idea what that means.
You're gonna sit at this console?
Right.
And start messing with our stuff?
Right. I don't know what your history is, your backstory. Like if you meet a Borg, out of nowhere, it would probably be smart not to just like invite them in. And, you'd be curious to know some backstory. Like, okay, where are you from? What's your goal here? And I felt like that was just really brushed over right away. Like, oh, he's with me. So on to the next.
Yeah.
And the curiosity should have been like, whoa, he's with you. Yeah, but I've never seen this guy before. Like, is he a telepath? Is he, does he have certain, we need some information.
Right.
And there wasn't, the curiosity wasn't high enough for me for something, you haven't seen it before. You'd be curious. And the other side of curiosity that I thought was not played well, was downplayed, was when they were on the edges of the universe and when they were in, places that nobody's ever seen before. Picard kept saying, well, damn it, we don't know who we're going to report to. And, why do a study when, we don't even, who are we going to report it to?
Right.
And my thing is, yeah, that's true. But the ship has the capability to scan surfaces of planets and stuff like that from a distance, from the comfort of your own, So while you're trying to figure out how you're going to get back, I would also be doing scans and connecting as much data as I can of the edges of the universe. Like, wow, nobody's ever seen this. Like, what is this? So that's another level of curiosity that I felt like, where's the excitement about that? You guys are like 10 billion light years away. That should be in itself like, whoa, this is amazing.
We're the first people. We're the first seeing this. Yeah, first experiencing. They would reference it. There were two like very kind of just non-energetic, suggestions of it made. One by Data, one by Kaczynski. This could be a science experiment, and but then moved off. I also, when thinking back, when they first come aboard and they start running these, diagnostic tests or something or whatever they're doing here, the warp tests, and Wesley, is asked to leave, but he's hovering and he's looking and he just jumps in and starts, pressing buttons but they're running like tests. So it's like, I'm not sure you would just touch anything at this point. Even if you see something going on, you could suggest. But I mean, there's no way he's going to start to, even though it ends up once again, Wesley should be running the ship at this point.
This is kind of the running gag too, where they're like, after like the first episode, when I was like, hey, why are they letting it? And now I'm just like, all right, so this is a universe in which they let some 16-year-old boy genius, they're like, whatever. And then I will say, though, the one time I kind of switched on that was when the Traveler told Picard, he's a special kid, you really need to, help without interfering and this and that. So at least that to me explained the change there. It didn't explain beforehand, but it explains to me, okay, that's cool that now Picard is being told like, hey, this is a very special kid and you really need to keep your eye on him and encourage him and allow him to grow. So that worked for me and that was cute. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm glad that they finally, because I mean, clearly we're seeing it as an audience. Mm-hmm. The kid is solving every problem, every engineering skill, I mean, he's fixing everything and, being treated, dismissed left and right by everyone, scolded. I'm the whole
being called the boy.
Get the boy. It's like, okay, we got we got to do. I'm curious what comes after this. Now, is this a shift now that we're going to see?
This is. I think they've gone way too hard on the Wesley story, boy genius, in the beginning of this show. It's not my favorite theme, and I think they're overdoing it. It's fine that it's there, but I just feel like they're just hitting it over the head, over and again. I just got to hear about how smart he is. And you might as well make this the Doogie Howser of Star Trek and just make him like the surgeon. You know what I mean? He's the doctor, he's the engineer, he's the captain, and that bothers me. Another thing that I was like, so wait a minute, these guys are doing a whole pseudoscience, a fake diagnostic on the warp drive, and Wesley knows about it. It's like, how would he know about something that's completely fictitious? That is not based in the legitimate science. So how could you know about it then?
Well, wait a minute. Let's like walk me through this. Like I'm the deli butcher, like, okay, not. So the premise is that they're going to run some tests on the warp speed. Okay.
Yeah.
So we know Kaczynski's full of, this is not real.
But Kaczynski doesn't know that he's full of shit, which is the crazy part. We all know, but even Deanna Troi says he's very confident. So he's not even trying to swindle them. He's just an idiot.
So he just thinks all of his little analysis and data, even though it's been run through by Riker,
engineers,
the engineer, Argyle, which
Argyle, right?
Nothing so on the nail on the head. But anyway, so Argyle and Riker, go, this is just not, nothing changed, nothing happened. So what are we looking at for, what is the Traveler supposed to be doing?
Right.
Like, what is it? So you've got Kaczynski's got assistant. The formula, the data. He's in Starfleet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So who is this guy? What is he bringing to the table? And we don't. This is a surprise to us.
Mm-hmm. Well, they said that is his assistant. So presumably, while this guy's entering in whatever, the assistant is handling the side stuff or checking the data to make sure, or whatever an assistant will be doing at that time.
What is this thing? We've never seen it. You're in Starfleet. Why do you have where'd you get this guy or this
Probably
thing?
Because he's been pre-approved from the previous ships, right? I mean, like, if they were probably already told ahead of time that it's this guy and his assistant are coming onto the ship, right?
It had to have been, yeah. Unless he's working for Section 31 and he's got his own like top secret mission that he's on. But yeah, so that's the problem I have. If Kaczynski is doing a fake method that doesn't do anything really, it's not actually improving the warp drive capability.
Right.
Then the alien guy is doing something. Whatever he's doing something that is foreign to the other guy, but it's something foreign to all of us. He's doing something in the computer system, whether he's merging with it in his own entity and the abilities he has, or he's programming something into it. He's doing something.
Right.
My question is, if this alien is doing something so abstract, nobody knows how to do this, which is, exceeds the logic of physics with the speed of warp.
Right.
How could Wesley know about it? How could he understand that level of science?
Because he's a genius that knows everything. Apparently.
But yes, exactly.
He was helping him as if he knows the thing too.
You know what's funny about this?
He was correcting it. He was correcting it.
He knows the formula that will take you past the speed of warp. So it's like, well, he became Einstein, without knowing the sciences that lead up to it. It just, the guy's an alien from a different time zone, from a place and time that we have no answer.
That we haven't even gotten there yet.
Right. So how do you know his knowledge? That's what I'm saying. How could you understand that knowledge? That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Well, math and science are universal. So if it's going to be mathematic or science related, then theoretically, I don't know, that doesn't bother me so much. You guys are going through what I went through on my first run through, where I was just like, why? Like, even when I was a kid, I think the kid is supposed to appeal to the kids. But when I was a kid, the children characters never appealed to me. I was never like, oh, wow, I want to be the next whatever. I was just like, I don't care about this. I want to see the big people do the big people stuff. But now that that's like 30 years ago that I went through that or whatever. Now I'm like, all right, it actually doesn't bother me as much because I know what to expect. But watching you guys go through what I went through, which is like, how does this kid know everything? And the writers are probably thinking, he just does. But we're like, yeah, but I want more.
Tell
than
them he's a genius, and that's all the explanation that's needed. He's a special genius. Comparing him to Mozart,
and the Traveler, comparing him to Mozart. That was a really good point there.
Well, I would have liked a little backstory in that too. I would have liked some kind of like one of our kind of people helped Mozart become Mozart. Like, so we've always been there for the nurturing of these special lives, whatever they are, right? Whoever they are throughout time. We come there and we're there. So a little backstory on that. The thing is, I'm getting too much story on Wesley's life and his desires and passions in life. I have very little background on Geordi. I have very little background on Worf. I have, I'm getting a little bit of Data. Riker, where are their backstories to give me more insight into their perspective and their life stories and what they've gone through to get to this place? I feel like we've been hitting the same tones and those same points over and over again on the show so far. Like with the gang rape situation with your character, how many times are they going to bring up the gang rape stuff? Like again, I was thinking, like, seriously, like, how does you seeing a kitten turn into the gang rape thing again?
I know. And I was thinking until I remembered the guy that was fighting the flames in the corridor. But everybody's memory or their thought that they projected, whether it was the Targ, the Klingon Targ, that's a warm, loving memory thought. You've got the ballerina, the woman doing pirouettes, beautiful. The guy playing the violin in the playing I believe it was Mozart they were playing, and Tasha
and Picard had his mom. He was talking. That was a beautiful scene.
Beautiful. That was a beautiful scene. Yeah. Beautiful. He had true emotion there, and you've got Tasha with the rape gangs in this outfit.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to the 70s disco with, did you notice the scratches across the chest?
Yeah. Yep.
I did.
And that's what she's wearing. She's been an orphan since she was 5.
Yeah. I was like, guys, don't beat that. Yeah, it's borderline sexual harassment from your angle, literally. From your character's angle, because it's like, wait, you can't keep bringing this one thing up. There has to be more depth, more to the stories.
It's constant sexualization, and ideation of this character. Anytime they can do it.
But
anytime.
I have to say, I enjoyed the episode though, ultimately, because I did think it brought in. I thought it was paced well. I kind of liked the graphics of I know it was back in the day graphics of the whole warping thing, but
that was fun.
It was good enough for me. Yeah,
I like the stuff behind me.
Yeah.
Actually, I was kind of surprised. I was like, wow, how did they do that so well in 1987? It was really nice.
Yeah, so the graphics and the warp, seeing the wormholes as they were going by and all the galaxies kind of flashing by. I really enjoyed that. Reminded me of the movie Contact with Jodie Foster when she's going through that porthole. So there were aspects of, and I also want to say that this guy who played Mr. Kaczynski was really good. As far as being being arrogant and overbearing and self-important. I thought he hit those notes as good as you can hit it.
From the second he walked in, he didn't even have to say anything, and you're automatically like, what's this guy's problem?
Absolutely. Right. And that's not easy to do. We know as actors, you do a guest part, the cast is solid. You're walking in and you're owning the place. You're playing this kind of arrogant asshole and just walking in like you own the place. And you gotta be able to do that. That's a tough gig.
Mm-hmm. And, I also really liked the music scoring. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same person for each episode, but I was really impressed, especially when Picard almost steps out of the turbo lift into whatever was going on out there. Yeah. Like the music really grabbed me. And that was the first time I fully noticed it, although it was great throughout. But that's when I really noticed it. Also, real quick, Michael Reeves. I recognize that name. He's a writer. He's done a bunch of stuff. He also, I believe, won some things for doing the Batman animated series that kind of like blew up the world like 20 years ago. If you remember when the Batman animated series, I met the guy through our good buddy, Cirroc, Mark Zicree, who did Far Beyond the Stars. So shout out to Michael Reeves as well there. Yeah. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
Another female writer, Diane Duane.
Right.
That's our second one we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm. Maybe even third. There was DC Fontana, who's basically working on all of these. Diane Duane, and there was the lady in Code of Honor, I believe. So I think maybe that's the third
Oh, okay.
When I don't remember her name though. I don't remember her name
That's
offhand.
right.
Catherine Powers.
Yeah, very nice.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell you what, everybody, we've got to take a quick break right now. We're going to come back in just a second with our friend, Eric Menyuk. Well, he will be our friend after this. And so everybody stick around and we'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Seventh Rule. Of course, Cirroc, Lofton and Denise Crosby are here. We are joined by very special guest, the legendary, the traveler himself, Eric Menyuk. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ryan.
This is going to be so much fun. Very quickly, we have the trivioids of the week. Commander Riker wants Counselor Troi to look these visitors over. Commander Argyle says Mr. Kaczynski's methods are meaningless. The Enterprise's velocity is off the scale. The Enterprise is on the far side of Triangulum, whatever the heck that means. Starfleet will receive the Enterprise's message in over 51 years. Space and time and thought aren't the separate things they appear to be. A Targ is on the bridge. Picard likes his tea nice and strong. Up until now, the Federation has been uninteresting. And Counselor Troi feels such an abundance of well-being on the ship. It feels like quite wonderful. All right.
Oh my, I got goosebumps.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Eric. We had a blast watching this episode, and we hope you're doing real well today.
Thank you. I am. Thank you, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to be here. I love seeing Denise. I've not seen her in forever. It's great to see her. Cirroc, I've never met you before, but it's really nice to meet you. So I'm psyched.
Cool.
Pleasure is mine. Eric, when you first got this role, what kind of background did they give you to the character, this traveler character?
It was interesting because before I had the traveler, I had been auditioning for Data, came down to Brent Spiner and me, and fortunately he got it.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I didn't think it was fortunate, but now, in retrospect, looking at my life, it's fortunate. And so, actually, this is one of the very few times in my acting career that I didn't have to audition for a role. They called me up, they wanted me to play this role. And it was interesting because, they sent me an early version of the script, and it seemed like a very ethereal character. I really liked it a lot. And they were saying, yes, very heady, he's not really familiar with the language, but he's the traveler. He's been around. So he's good at picking up languages and things like that. And I still remember the one thing that I went in and, oh, God, what is his name? Rob? Can you tell me?
Bowman?
Rob Bowman? Yeah.
Thank you. Bob Bowman. He was he started out, this is before, X-Files, he was doing all that. He was amazing. Sat down with him and we had a really long talk about what he wanted out of the character. And it was one of the many people in my career who said less is more. And we went through him. He was very in touch, with oh God, this is old age. Michael, makeup guy.
Westmore.
Westmore. Yeah.
Famous guy. So we'll leave that out. Famous makeup guy. And it was a really collegial effort, putting this character together. The one issue that I had with Michael was I thought he should, he was very tall, thin. At the time I was a little thinner. And he should have these ethereal kind of fingers. I didn't care how many, but they give me this club hand with three stubby fingers. And of course, my first comment was, how he's supposed to get a keyboard. How's he supposed to type with three clubby there? It's not a keyboard, all right?
With his mind.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's a touch screen, so you do everything by touch. And I went, oh, okay. Who knew? So that was it. That was fun getting into it, Cirroc. It was.
That was before there was a touch screen technology. Now everybody's used to touch screens, so it's like, what is he talking about? But this is before that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and you'll notice like Kaczynski really deliberately pushes down on buttons, and everybody does it in a different way. There's some of us that are touching a bazillion things all the time. Some just do one, because we have no reference point at this point,
It was early on. This was before any episode had aired. So I don't know if you recall, Denise, way back when. I mean, everyone's kind of nervous because they didn't know that it was going to be the spectacular show that it was. Everyone was kind of, oh, we'll see how this goes. We don't know yet.
Absolutely. We had absolutely no sense. We were like in a, just a tunnel, had no idea. And again, it wasn't, we weren't getting a lot of positive comments out in the, when it was leaking. The word on the street was pretty negative.
Right.
And it was filtering back to us in ways, obviously there wasn't the internet, and God, we're really, I sound like, prehistoric, but yeah, it's, there was no internet, there were no cell phones, there wasn't a touch screen, we did everything manually. Oh my God. So, it was, we were getting these, this vibe that, oh, this is gonna suck. This is just gonna suck. And it's, you gotta keep, clear of that, and just do your work and keep your head down.
That's right. And I'll say this, what was also really sweet, about the first episode doing that is everyone in the cast, at least, they were really kind of interested and excited. And there was this kind of feeling like we really want to do a good job, because as Denise says, there's a lot of tension out there. Oh my gosh, they're remaking Star Trek. This is the fans aren't going to like it because they're so locked into the original series, and there's going to be all this negative about, as she said, negative vibe that we were getting. And so I think in some sense, Denise, and better than I, they kind of brought the cast together, and to really want to make a good product. And I will tell you, at the time, I thought all TV shows, I was fairly new at the point, and all TV shows had that kind of feeling, and they don't.
Sound familiar, Cirroc?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Well, no, I learned that lesson myself subsequently after the show. I learned that you're not going to find this group of people that have this kind of enthusiasm everywhere you go. You think it's a normal thing, but as you move on in the business, you find that some people don't care about the work that they're doing, or they'll half-ass it, or, there's no extra, emphasis on quality. So that's one of the privileges of Star Trek, is that the people, everybody involved, really have a high respect for the work that they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and sorry, I was just going to say, in Cirroc, you were facing the same thing Denise and Eric were facing when Deep Space Nine started, which was just like, well, is this good? Is this going to work? And like the leaking coming out, people were saying, this is not my Star Trek.
Right.
Like, and then that creates an uncertainty that actually favors the studios, because what they do is they keep the production in a sense of suspense, of uncertainty. And that makes you not come back and renegotiate contracts or whatever it is that you want to get more money. And so by keeping the cast and the crew in that space where you're like, oh, we're going to get renewed, or we're going to get picked up, we don't know, maybe the advantage goes to the studios, because they know it's going to go on. They know, this is going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of stuff, but they're not going to give you that much information, because you're going to use it to, tell your agent to renegotiate a contract. But Eric, my question for you is about your chemistry with Wil Wheaton in this episode is really good. And what did you do to develop that chemistry beforehand, or did you do anything at all?
Well, I'll tell you right now, part of, certainly for me, but part of being an actor for me was the playfulness. And Wil Wheaton at the time was very young, and I was very immature, still am, some would say. And so we did have, what was interesting is we had a really good bond. on the set, and we had a lot of playfulness. His whole, I think for the first, I would say few days I was there, the challenge for him was getting a clothespin stuck to my outfit, because it was so tight, and so it was like upholstery on a car. You couldn't stick a clothespin. Apparently this was a thing he was doing. I don't know why.
What? He was the goof off on the set?
Yeah, I would say
he could be. He could be. He was quite creative and imaginative. I know. I don't know if I've told you that. He had a schoolhouse. He had his own trailer, but he had then a schoolhouse trailer, and it was. I went in it one day to just check it out and see him. It was fantastic. He had just
clothespins everywhere.
Yeah, clothespins everywhere. Just decorative and creative, imaginative space. He really turned it into, this wonderful, wacky world that was so creative. And yeah, he was really fun.
Was and I will say, at the time, he used to complain about, I'm just a nerd having fun. And, at the time I felt the same way, that it was the meeting of the nerds, so to speak. And so, yeah, we did have, thank you for noticing that, Cirroc. We did have really good chemistry. And, over the years, I've reconnected with Will several times. It's been a while now. We really did have a good chemistry on the set. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed working with him a lot.
Well, and also it's the first time in the show that you're getting a sense that somebody really gets the character of Wesley. They really are getting him. They appreciate him. They want to nurture that. They want those around him to understand what he sees and be very careful and mindful of, this soul, because this is a special one. And, that's finally being addressed and said for the first time, not just, get off my ship, get off my bridge, you put that down, Wesley, turn around, get out of that chair. There's no kid, everybody's so hostile to him.
Well, there was a joke about anytime anyone has an entrance or forgets their line, all they have to do is say, "Shut up, Wesley."
Yeah. Yeah. That was a running gag.
Yeah.
Like, oh, shut up, Wesley. Yeah. And then you hopefully get your line back. I mean, and I wonder, as I'm watching now, see, Eric, I'm watching these for the first time in 35 years with these guys.
Wow.
Which is really, really fun and cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't seen the show since they aired. I'm wondering how much of the attitude of the cast, portraying their roles on the ship towards Wesley, did that bleed out into the public domain?
I would say that. I mean, I know, like I said, having spoken to Will outside of the show at those early years, it was tough for him. Basically, the fans were looking at him like, oh, he's just this, incredible guy who can save the ship and do all this stuff. And, they didn't believe it. They thought, the spoiled kid, et cetera, et cetera. And I think they mistook, the character for the actor, which sometimes happens. And I think, Bill got a lot of grief for that from the public.
I understand he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that was tough. And, it was unfair because,
certainly.
Sweet kid, very sweet kid.
Very.
Eric, you seem to have a pretty good knowledge of all this. It sounds like you may have watched some episodes a little bit more recently, have you? Than 35 years, I mean.
Yeah, but it was more recent than 35 years. Not that recent. I think actually when they remastered the DVDs, they played like 2 episodes that were in movie theaters. And one of them was this episode, and I don't remember what the second one was. So that was, I don't know how long ago. That was a few decades or a couple decades ago. I went to the movie theater to see, that episode. And it was great because family on the East Coast got to go to movie theaters there and see the episode. So that was fun. Yeah, I have not, it's interesting when you get to be, my youthful age, you can forget what you had for breakfast, but things that happened 40 years ago or 35 years ago stick like glue, and especially, I'll tell you, this, because it really was a unique experience for me, even within the acting world, to be on that set working with the cast of people who are all phenomenal. As Cirroc said, you feel like, oh my gosh, is this what it's like all the time? And it's not. And it was really a unique experience. So I do have a very fond recollection of doing that. And like I said, really phenomenal director. I mean, everything kind of came together for me in that one episode. It was really nice.
Yeah, I want to do a little segue to the director that you brought up now, Rob Bowman, which I'm looking back at his resume. It looks like he was an associate producer on the A-Team prior to his Star Trek Next Generation. And then after the Next Generation, he's a producer on the X-Files, which you mentioned as well. So looks like he's left his mark in the world.
Absolutely, sir. Now, what I'm not sure of, because I think he was Rob Bowman Jr., so I don't know if the A-Team was his dad or was him.
Ooh.
I don't know.
They got him credited.
Really?
Oh, you're right.
He was quite
I see
young.
what you mean.
Yeah, he was quite young on that first episode. He went on to do a bunch of Next Gen. We really liked him. The producers really liked him and hired him a bunch.
Well, if there's a senior and a junior, they really should just combine the credits, right? Isn't that if they're going to share the same name, then they just
right, exactly.
Yeah, because I think he would have been like 5 or something.
Now, okay, all right. Erica, have you done any conventions? Have you done Star Trek conventions?
A lot of conventions, yes. Actually, more recently, just because I've been busy, I haven't taken up all the offers, but also, I mean, I hate to say it, this Next Gen has now, and then there's DS9, as you know, there's Voyager, there's Enterprise, there's all the new shows on CBS. Us old folk kind of get pushed down, so I don't get invited a lot. What I do a lot is the cruises, not the big ones, the little ones. Because I really enjoy them, and I've gotten to know the people who produce them, so it's fun. That's fun. And after 30 years, now it's just, I almost know everyone who's on the boat. I almost know everyone, who's on this, and it's like an extended family. And that, I'll tell you, that is the amazing thing about Star Trek, unlike, almost any other show. Because it was, or I think originally, the only conventions you had were Star Trek. Now you have Supernatural, you have all these other shows that have conventions. Star Trek was the original. So, and it is really, I think, a unique experience to go out and see, talk to fans about what they see, and be able to joke with them and have fun with them. It's a lot of fun. The one comment I always get is, "You're not like your character at all."
When you were acting,
you're not all seeing
and magical,
coming.
Hey, speaking of that, though, Erica, we only have a couple minutes left already. Time's flying by on us, but I just got to ask you, since you were the runner-up to play Data, what was your particular thought process when you were playing Data? Was there something you focused on? Was it some weird guy you used to know in high school? Did you focus on giving him like a little tick, or what? Did you have some kind of thing that pushed you up the ranks and made you a top 2 Data pick?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, it was acting. I was acting. For me, interestingly enough, when I saw it, Brent did a wonderful job. When I saw it, it was similar, my picture when I did it was very similar to what, Brent ended up. I think that I had a little more, what's the word? A little more, for lack of a better word, if you think of someone who's a little bit on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, a little uncomfortable just in his own skin, not really familiar with what it means to be human. And so playing with that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot. And apparently I did an almost really good job.
No,
you did. I mean, it's hard to get past all the hurdles to make it to the final two is a difficult thing.
Yeah, who knows what these decisions are,
No, you don't.
at that level.
Yeah.
Eric, you said you're a lawyer now, and my question for you is, did you already have your law degree when you were acting, or did you go back?
No, I got to the point, actually, I got married. My wife told me she was pregnant, and I said, okay, I've got to grow up in that career. Then the impetus for me was, there was a couple things that happened work-wise in the acting world. I just finished a film, The Air Up There, with Kevin Bacon, and it was not a great experience for me. I had wanted to do this play that was being brought. I'd done it in Boston and Chicago. It was being brought to LA, and the producers had to hire someone else, or didn't have to, they did. And so when my wife told me she was pregnant, I said, all right, the trouble with acting is, as Denise said, you don't know who's making decisions, what person is just going, nah, and that ends your career, or ends your job. It's not a meritocracy. There were so many phenomenally talented actors that I've met that, couldn't get arrested, as they say. And so many not so great actors who you see on TV all the time. So I really made a decision at that point that I was looking for a job where if I worked hard and I did well, that somehow I would advance. Not to say there isn't politics and law either. There is, but it's not to the extent that it is in that career. So that was my decision at the time. I'd given it a good run.
So you went back to school. So you went back to school, and
yeah, I went back to school. I think I graduated in '98, I went to night school. I still, good jobs during the day, acting jobs. I shot, the Ellen Show. I remember there's there's a bunch of shows I did actually while I was in law school. And then, when I graduated, that was it. And it's interesting because, I was, a fairly successful actor, and there had some great years and some really not great years. And, I remember the first year my wife said, I never see you anymore. You're not even making as much money as you made as an actor. Why did you do this? As time went on, like I said, though, you work hard and you do well, the career goes up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my God, am I ever going to work again? So, and there are times when I regret my decision, but not often.
Great.
Beautiful. Well,
what kind of law do you practice? Just a quick reference. Sorry.
What kind of law? I actually represent children with disabilities. I get them services from school district, special education law, it's called. It can be very rewarding. It can be very frustrating, but it's very rewarding.
It's kind of like what the Traveler did.
Yeah, you're still working with children. That's great.
And you're advocating, for their well-being.
The Traveler lives on in our world.
Oddly enough, you're the first person that ever said that, and that is so true.
That's why I make the big bucks, Eric. I'm a brainiac. Oh my God.
She's a brainiac.
That's such that was so obvious to me as you were explaining. I mean, I have a son, and he was needing some aid in elementary school. And of course, there are so many things available, but you don't know what to ask for. And we have in California, we have this the FAPE, a fair and
free appropriate public
education that we're entitled. All of us are entitled to all of these services that nobody knows exists, because you check your kid into school and no one tells you that you're not handed a book, a guide. And we were lucky enough to actually hire an advocate to walk us through the system and get some things that really, really changed my kid's life.
Yep.
And there was a point that I was so invested in what I was seeing and going through with my own son that I thought, you know what? I'm going to leave acting and I'm going to become an advocate. Because it will change. It can change someone's life.
It does. It really does, Denise. And thank you. You've inspired me even more.
It's what you do is tremendous. I know firsthand.
Yeah, it is. And what I mean, as you say, is absolutely true. Is, school districts, if anything, almost want to hide those things because it costs them money. Exactly. So, it is, and sometimes it's really, it gets my heart because these are students who need the most help, and they're not being helped.
And there's such a lack of like if you have extreme autism, there's a lot of services. If you have physical, real damage physically, disabilities, real physical things, there's a lot of services. If you're this kid that they can't quite get into a box, and you are scratching your head, pulling your hair.
These are arguments I've made in court, Denise. Exactly what you just said. Because actually, my son has a learning. Sorry.
No, I have no idea any of this stuff that ever existed. I'm glad we're having this discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm actually thinking from the perspective of somebody who's out there who may hear this, that is underprivileged or doesn't have access or the knowledge of what they're entitled to. What is something that they can do their own homework and investigate? What is the thing to research?
Yeah, any kind of website.
Here's what I will say. First of all, just to keep back on what Denise said, is my son had a learning disability. Looked like, perfectly, typical kid. No problems, except he couldn't handle being in a classroom because, he felt stupid because he wasn't getting it. It wasn't because he wasn't smart. It wasn't because of anything other than a learning disability. And she's absolutely right. For those kids, it's really hard. And the school districts, people will say, oh, they're just lazy or whatever. And then, Cirroc, to answer your question, one thing I want to also say is because under the law, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, which is, as he said, provides that all students are entitled to free appropriate public education. Attorney's fees can be paid for. If you have a case, you should, I would say you can go to the OAH website and there's a list of attorneys, and any one of them, of course, I'll say if you look me up, that's definitely the time. There's a list of attorneys that practice in this area of law. And there are also, as Denise said, there are, non-attorney advocates who also do this. And there are a lot of good ones.
Yeah. And even if, all of that is not something that is doable, you start with the school that your kid is at. If it's a public school, you ask for, a meeting, a testing, an IEP. There you go. It's been so long since I've done it, but you ask for an IEP, which my kid, had, and you begin, you're entitled to that. You must have access to that. It's called an IEP. The school has to provide it and start that track.
Wow,
and
this is very important. That's really cool. I'm so glad that we went in that direction and that people could find out what a hero you are, Eric. This is so cool.
It's the traveler in real life.
That's right. Even more so. We do have to run, but thank you so much, Eric. Please give us the online information that we can include in the description box below so we can add these websites. So anybody that needs that kind of help. and doesn't know that these kind of things are out there for them and their children, please check out this information.
You want me to email it to you? I can email it to you.
Please, and we'll include it in the box. Thank you. Really appreciate that. So everybody check that out. Stick around, Eric. We're going to give a very special thanks to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, Dequeue, Neal Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, live from Tokyo, Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Jed Thompson, Amy Renee Haynes, Sean Mouch, Marcia Classic Schreier, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner. Thank you so much, Eric. This was so cool. Everybody check out the information in the description box below. We really appreciate what you do in real life, Eric, even more so than you taking the time to join us today.
My pleasure.
Great. So everybody at home, stick around. We've got the free-for-all up next, and we will be right back on the Seventh Rule. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule. This is the free-for-all, of course. Melissa is here, Justin, Anne-Marie, Eve England out in Wales, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Homer Freezy has decided to return to grace us with his presence, Stephanie Baker, Jed Thompson, live in Tokyo, Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Carrie Schwent, Tierney C. Dieckmann, and Faith Howell. It's going to be a party, everybody. Let's get it started quickly, right? CNC Music Factory. Melissa Longo, can you please get us started? You've got a great picture of the traveler behind. Oh, I'm so sorry. Cirroc Lofton, aka Jake Sisko, guesses the IMDb score.
I
always forget.
I would say it's about a 7.6. That's my guess. 7.6.
Any other guesses?
Okay, I'm going to say that I'm going on and giving it a 10 right now because it starts the whole traveler arc. And it's just a cool thing that it starts in the beginning this early, and then we still hear about it in Picard.
So she
just
thinks
on
on
the internet 6.3.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Cirroc Lofton. Wow, it is a 7.5. Good knowledge of the internet. Good job. Good stuff.
Nice. Getting close.
Wow.
All right. All right, Melissa Longo, your thoughts?
Well, I liked this episode a lot. And the biggest thing that stood out to me in this was Wesley and his curiosity. For me, he represents Starfleet's ideology in the purest sense. He's a genius, but he's also a blank slate and uninformed by prejudices and distrust. And he approaches the traveler with this wide-eyed curiosity of what he can learn from this being that is so different from himself. And then in his curiosity, he discovers a connection, a commonality, and an empathy that is unique from the others on board. And I do wish that they had explored this relationship a bit more, but they've planted these seeds that potentially explore something very interesting between these two people. And I also liked that Riker takes ownership of shooting Wesley down and not listening to him. I thought that was pretty awesome. A couple other things that stood out was the Klingon Targ. Tasha Yar, your scene is very small, but you're always so believable in your acting, and it caught my attention again this time. And also the traveler and the actor that played Kaczynski, he was so committed to being a hard ass and so closed-minded totally opposite of Wesley, but he did it so phenomenally. So those are the things that I took away.
It's funny when Melissa said, I wish I had seen more of the Traveler and Wesley. We all kind of smirked a little bit, a knowing smirk.
Oh, really?
Except Eve's like, why? What do you mean? You'll see. Dr. Mohamed Noor, how are you? Welcome, calling in all the way from your office in Duke University. What'd you think of this episode?
So I enjoyed it too, and I won't echo Melissa's points, but I actually want to build on one point that she mentioned about Kaczynski. That one thing I thought was interesting is that he kind of switched by the end of the episode, because right at first he was very, kind of repulsive and gross and things like that, but then by the end he was actually very sweet and like had a big old genuine smile and was happy. The question I was left with at the end of the episode is like, so what happens next with him? Because I mean, basically they said all his calculations were bunk.
Yeah.
Is he fired? Yep. What is he gonna do now? I don't know. I'll just have one other quick thing, so I want to make sure everybody else has time. I love when aliens have something else besides just forehead differences from humans. And I love the Traveler's fat fingers. It was like 3 fat, and I was thinking like, that's gonna be terrible on a keyboard.
Yeah, or texting.
But that was really cool. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I actually made a whole bunch of mistakes when I was messaging someone this morning, and I wanted to say, "Oh, sorry, fat fingers," but I'm like, I can't even blame it on that. But the Traveler can.
Fingers.
Eve England out in Wales. How are you today? Wearing a radical Abyssinian kiosk maroon hoodie.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I have to confess, I was starting to question my life choices after the last couple of episodes, but I'm pleased to say that I really enjoyed this episode, and really echo what Melissa was just saying. I mean, for me, my main observation was that it just felt like a really authentic sci-fi episode, taking it out of the context of being a Star Trek episode. It just had sort of all of the good elements that you want to see in some sci-fi. So, particularly like, the narrative where you have this, alternate plane of existence, and then you have the introduction of this, this advanced alien being, and how that all kind of comes together to illustrate how humanity and Starfleet and everybody still has this arrogance and these shortcomings. So I just think that's I like that sort of trope that you get in sci-fi, and I thought that they play that really well then when they have that conversation between the Traveler and Picard, when he's saying, what is the purpose of your journey? He's like, well, there isn't, though. It's just for the love of traveling and to learn new things, and originally I was thinking, that's a bit strange, because that's exactly what their mission is all about, is to go out there and explore new worlds and go where no one has gone before. And that's, this sort of episode just embodies all of that. But it just kind of shows them that actually their idea of that, they're still they've got so much to learn. And I thought that was just a really good concept to start with. And then just generally speaking, I just thought the production of it was just beautiful. The scenes of the distant galaxies, the one you've got there, Ryan, it's just beautiful. I can just imagine that that's pretty improved since they've done the enhancements and things. But then also I just love the music aspect of it. There was so much variety, it's an eclectic mix of different music, and you had, I loved how they brought Mozart actually into it when they were referring to Wesley as this, this Mozart genius. But then how you then had all of the, the synthesizers, and then you had the sort of typical sci-fi sort of mystical music. And I just thought all of that just came together really well. And just one final point, I really did like that scene, the flashback scene with you, Denise. And I was kind of just getting sort of Blade Runner vibes, but also with a bit of a mix of the Audrey Hepburn Breakfast at Tiffany's scene at the end when she's in the rain. I just thought it was I thought it was a really beautiful scene, even though it's just obviously such a short part of it. I really like the aesthetics of that.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, the cat, right. The cat in Tiffany's, yeah.
Eve catches stuff that go way over my head. Speaking of way over my head, Justin Weir, aka Shag840, is here wearing his favorite Seventh Rule Cirroc Lofton shirt, matching my yellow.
Yellow.
Fun fact, everybody: Cirroc Lofton betrayed me earlier today. We were both showed up wearing yellow, and he changed his shirt. It was so sad. Anyway, Justin, but you hooked it up. How are you?
I got
today?
you, man. I'm good, thank you. I brought my Voyager cup because this episode makes you think of Voyager.
Yep.
But I'm not going to share any details about this episode. I'm going to share a quick story of what this episode makes me think of. It was a very special Star Trek time. When they started remastering The Next Generation 10, 12 years ago, when they cost $80 a season when they came out, I was working at a local theater, 7 theaters. I was a shift manager. And I was there when we went from old school projectors to digital. But they had Fathom events where they would show, concerts or, different special things that weren't movies. And they showed this episode on the big screen to promote season 1 of The Next Generation. And I got the poster at home. I don't know where it's at, but I got a poster of it. And also I was able to take in my Blu-ray player after we were closed, and I could just watch The Next Generation on Blu-ray with my friends in an empty movie theater. And that's really made me fall in love with TNG. And those were some great times.
Amazing.
Aww.
I think I see a Captain Picard figure in your background too.
Yeah, he's on top of the Enterprise.
The only way to travel.
That's
right. All right. Good stuff. Dr. Marie Segal is here. She rides the same way, except on a pickup truck.
So weird. Yeah, so I would say, first of all, I just love Wesley's sweater game. All the time. And I just to be able to go through his closet. And in addition, I like Eve said, I just love the Mozart reference. And this is one of the beginnings of this amazing classical music. The classical music weaving through the whole series. And I'm just such a big classical music fan. So it makes me very happy. And then thirdly, I love the first time I saw this, I was like, who is this Kaczynski character? And you just want to know the backstory of did the traveler go somewhere and was like, okay, I'm looking for a mark, somebody who's really a big blowhard that I could just use and he won't even question anything I'm doing. And I just love the idea that he went shopping for somebody like this. And I would love to see that backstory.
Mm-hmm. He's like, this guy is perfect.
Intolerable. He's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Out of the Traveler and Kaczynski, Homer Frizzell is obviously Kaczynski. How are you, Homer? I'm sorry, the Traveler I meant. I'm gonna edit that out and just say Homer Frizzell is definitely the Traveler. All right,
actually,
there we go.
We're cosplaying at the next convention.
The shirt I'm wearing is sort of inspired by the Traveler as far as the color palette goes. But I thought your lead-in was that I was intolerable like Kaczynski. So what I have on this one, it's just 2 things that stuck with me. One, that second time that they travel through space and time, well, however many millions, billions far away, and Data, I think, says something about maybe we should, look around a little bit, maybe do some sciencing here. And Picard's like, no, there are other ships that are better equipped. And so I think we should just get home and, not even run a scan. Let's go. And I was really surprised that Picard decided, I'm just going to turn around. I understand where he's coming from. He wants to get his people home. But even Janeway would check out the occasional nebula or something, and she had 75 years to go. So anyway, that surprised me. The other thing that struck me was just they just, not to bring up Voyager too much, but the EAMH and his bedside manner, I think he's got nothing on Picard. He's very much like, wake him, revive him, he could die, revive him. So it's like, whoa, okay. And then the guy wakes up, do you know who I am? It's like, okay, all right. So that's what I have for this episode. Thank you. I'm getting back up to speed. Over and out.
Excellent shirt. Beautiful. Excellent work. Dr. Stephanie Baker is also here with $1 million smile. How are you today, Stephanie?
Good. I have new earrings
Nice.
that I got I don't usually buy many things, but they're for the cruise. I'm going on the cruise for my very first Star Trek cruise. I'm excited. So I got some stuff. And I really like this episode because I love Wesley, and it brings Wesley kind of out of the boy phase, calling him boy, to giving him his name, and Wesley standing up for himself. And then Mike Gu couldn't be here, but he had a great thought regarding Voyager. A lot of us have talked about Voyager, is since they passed warp 10, why aren't they all salamanders?
Yep.
Yep. Somebody call Tom Harris.
Yes. And then I was a little confused at the end when they made him an acting ensign, and then in Prodigy there's warrant officers, and then in other Star Trek there's field commissions, and just wondering what all the differences are. And I don't quite understand if that matters, but I still don't understand that even after watching decades of Star Trek.
Me neither. Does anybody know the answer to that?
Larry's been looking for questions to write about in this month's Star Trek magazine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I would think
the
fact that he's an acting ensign means that he's not gone through any sort of training or anything like that. Like a battlefield commission or whatever is, that's
right.
Like, say, you go from you're a commander, now you're a captain. You've obviously gone through Starfleet Academy. You're within the ranks of that. And then a warrant officer, those are your NCO. That's just somebody who signs up, but they still have gone through some basic training. So in this case, Wesley has not gone through any sort of basic training, but Picard's giving him this. It's basically when you get an honorary degree from a university, but you've never gone to that university or whatever, it's in name only, but giving him the opportunity to then start training and then work towards that.
But then in the end, Picard says the seat they talk about it being for commissioned officers. Is an acting ensign a commissioned officer?
We all look to Matt.
I would feel commissioned.
Yeah, he still doesn't have a commission, but by him, I'm sure there's some sort of loophole that allows, by him having that unofficial title, that does allow them to give him those privileges. That's just my guess. I don't know. I could be talking out of my nose, so who knows?
It's okay.
Knows.
That's it.
Great stuff. Thanks for the education, Matt. Mr. Jed Thompson is here. By the way, we had a poll within just us. The question was, who would you cosplay? Cosplay Kaczynski or the Traveler? And 9 of you said the Traveler. 5 brave people said Kaczynski.
He had that little extra thing here. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He didn't. Something different.
So, how are you, Jed? What do you think of this episode?
I'm doing well, thank you. I enjoyed it. I'm gonna start with that. I enjoyed it. It was interesting. You had your sci-fi and techno-babble. You've got decent dialogue. You've got setting the foundation for future plot lines, and we get to see Boy Wonder come out, and be Wesley, and start to be Wesley as we know and love him. There are a couple of details that I'm going to go into because I think everybody else has said a lot of the great salient points here, and a couple of the little details that I absolutely loved was just one of the lines from Picard was, "Yes, but isn't the real point, can you do it again? Can you get us home?" It's just like, that's like, oh my God, we're so far away, but can you do it again, please? Like, that's that leader, like, no, come on, bring it back. And then, real quick, on a very small detail, and it's 1987, and during these visions the crew's having, you see one of the crew members, is a ballerina, and she's African American, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. And I think that I am not African American, for anybody who's listening to this, and or a person of color, and I think that seeing this, because I think of Misty Copeland, who's at I think the American Ballet, and is the prima donna there, and so I think that was just wonderful to see, and an example, a small example of the progressiveness of Trek in general. So, and that's my story.
Excellent.
Great
Great stuff. Fantastic. Also wearing a really cool shirt, by the way, that I didn't notice at first. It's a Chat Pack shirt.
Oh,
beautiful.
From the Teespring store.
Yep. Everybody, Mai is, guess what? Live in Tokyo. How are you today, Mai? You've got something special prepared for us today, right?
We'll see how that goes. Yeah. This episode, this was my kind of sci-fi. I love it. There's a little connection to what we know, a little speculation about what we don't know and what that might be. A lot of assumption that puts us right into the story. And then when they do that, just it all feels as real as the nose on our face. It's incredible. I really liked it. Great character development, interaction. Boom. We're back, baby. I love this one. That said, right at the beginning, when Picard is talking about asking about why the tests are being conducted, or Riker's asking about that, and then he sends Riker to receive the visitors. He was very emotional, not eliciting or leader-like. He was his demeanor was much more like a defensive teenager, I thought. But then this changed dramatically during the episode, and it's as if he went through a light speed amount of character development as well, because at the end, as people have mentioned, he was incredible. So that was good. I love the relationship between the Traveler and Wesley. The graphics on this one, the ship going straight and then going around the curve, I thought, if it's going through a wormhole, wouldn't it be compressing and then expanding? I don't know. It just seemed a little bit weird to me, but I loved everything about the episode. The one thing I would say, though, is that this isn't the first time that the Traveler has revealed that species has revealed themselves. In the previous decade, around 1975, I think it was, it was actually a reveal of the species, and I dug through the archives and I found an audio clip of the announcement when they revealed themselves, and it goes a little something like this.
Yes.
Okay, wait, it has to go off before we get copyright busted.
Yeah. Good save. Good save. I know I started counting too.
less than 10 seconds, and it's two pieces of clips that are both less than 10 seconds.
Amazing.
I figured we'd be under the wire.
Amazing.
Beautiful. Excellent work.
Anyways,
thank you,
that's
Mai.
all I've got for you guys.
All right, let's move on. Get it? Lead?
That's amazing.
Carrie Schwent is up next. How are you, Carrie? What's your favorite Led Zeppelin song?
Probably that one. I think Eric's more of a Led Zeppelin fan than I am, but that's okay. But I actually have a slight different musical connection to the episode. Watching the episode made me think of there's a line in a track from an AJR song called Next Up Forever. And it goes, "This is my imagination. This is how it looks and sounds." And that's sort of in that third place that other place that they get to with all the thoughts becoming real. Had that song playing in my head, and that's sort of what the T-shirt that I've got is from AJR concert. That kind of a similar thing. You got all kinds of crazy instruments and instruments in that. I had a lot of fun making the limerick for this one. Eric loves it, and I hope you guys will too. So here it goes. The Traveler helps with a test to make the engines better than best. People see what they think, but it's gone in a blink. In Wesley's future, Picard will invest. Kind of enjoy that. Yeah, Wesley absolutely shines in this episode. I agree with Anne-Marie. I want all of his sweaters. They just look so comfortable, and I enjoyed the hell out of, in particular about the end scene where Picard and Riker are just having a little bit of fun at Wesley's expense before saying, "Oh yeah, let's just give him a commission that way he can stay on the bridge." And Riker wants to call Dr. Crusher up to the bridge, and Picard responds with, "Why is anybody up here sick? She doesn't need to come up here."
That's good.
He wants to just stay and look around. He'll tell his mom later. And I have a little story for the bonus segment about Argyle, the Scottish engineer. And if Scott Jensen was here, he would absolutely recognize him from Gilmore Girls. Yeah, I love that. His voice is fantastic. But I will end with the quality eye roll from Troy when she says, when Riker says, "Can Troy come down and meet this guy with me? I want to give him the empathetic once over." Huge eye roll. Them stalking up to the turbo lift. I wanted to see her let him have it in that turbo lift. That would have been just an absolutely fun scene. But that's where I'll end. I've got a couple other things, but we'll save that for the bonus.
Stay tuned for that, everybody. Did you guys notice that really cool line, or I thought it was cool, when Riker and Troy were talking, and Troy said she was concerned about the guy, what's going on, and Riker says, "Good, stay concerned, please." I thought that was really well written.
Yeah,
smart.
I had written that
line too.
Good stuff. Thanks, Carrie. Dr. Susan V. Gruner is out in Starfleet Academy. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. I actually really liked this episode. I felt, I can remember watching it, that now they're starting to get into character development. It's a little weird to me that they started with Wesley, but I always loved Wesley. And here is this young, brilliant man who he is a blank slate. I thought that whoever said that was perfect. Was it Eve? That was awesome. He is full of empathy. He's kind. He's brilliant. And I thought, what a great human he is. And I love that Riker at the end acknowledges that Wesley was right. Wesley notices things that nobody else notices. And I love that about him. So this is, for me, the beginning of when I started liking The Next Generation better, because I thought, wow, we're going to start to learn a little bit more about the characters. I think Picard is still a little bit on the rough. He's still rough here, but yeah, having Beverly wake up the guy who could have died, but he gets better too. But yeah, loved it. Love Wesley's sweaters too. Yes.
All right. Great stuff. One of these days we should all wear a Wesley sweater.
Yes.
If we dare.
And
Those
I'm wondering too,
Yes.
how come everybody else isn't wearing a sweater? Is he cold?
No, our suits were quite warm. Trust me.
Oh no.
I'm gonna get a belt and high heels and a clutch and wear those out. I know on eBay. They're so
Ditto.
cute. Ditto.
Tierney C. Dieckmann, aka the Borg Queen, is here. How are you today, Tierney? Did you love Wesley's sweater game today? And what'd you think of this episode?
Absolutely love all of those sweaters. They are amazing. They look so comfy. And yeah, I think we each need to have a Wesley sweater day.
Yes.
I really love this episode. Always have. And I agree, echo a lot of comments. Picard, Kaczynski is just, my God, we'll go on about Kaczynski. But one point, I wish they had kind of done it, but probably for the show, it's better that they didn't. The original teleplay for this was absolutely wild. The Enterprise explodes out of a cosmological egg in that births a new universe, and the Enterprise has been missing for 6 days from our local group, and on the 7th day Picard issues a day of rest. Like
what?
Yeah, a la Genesis. So that would have been great, but disregarding some of the wacky science leeway they took with this one, a lot of things that I really love about this is, even with the watering down of the script, there is just fantastical exploration. They go 2 galaxies out, and we get these amazing effects. And then they are thrown to the edge of the universe with this great character, the absolutely delightful, lovable traveler. And he's amazing. I mean, he is both physiologically and technologically advanced in a way which he explains his abilities to be a focusing lens, which in more armchair logic, I guess, would consider it allows him to control the observer effect that we have as humans in quantum mechanics. And that kind of brings it more into a realistic prospect of theoretical imaginings in our own real world, that the things we love to apply to Star Trek. So I guess I wish there was a little bit more information on him. Does he steer the elemental wave functions of the universe? You know, I would like a little bit more on that, but I love this episode. I love the Traveler. I love his character. I just wanted more. I wanted more wildness, less rape gangs, but I've always loved this episode, and this feels like the first one that we're really getting into real Trek, real TNG Trek. So some points that are not so great, but others that are wonderful, very enjoyable, great sweaters.
Cirroc and Denise noticed the rape gang mentioned for I think what is it 35 times in 5 episodes that they've mentioned it. See if it tapers off and see if they have anything else to work with.
The outfit that they put you in, Denise, and all of that.
Yeah, right.
Like, is it necessary at this point?
Not after 5 episodes.
You know, and it's weird that we're talking about this too right now. They keep talking about the rape gangs. You know, why didn't they show Tasha kick their asses? You know, because she escaped them. She never, you know, she doesn't talk. There's never mention of her getting raped. She's always escaping the rape gangs. So if you want to really empower her, you know, see how she gets out of it. You know, not that with the kitty cat, run, kitty cat, run. You know, it's like,
they're not after the cat.
You want this? Come and get it, fuckers. I'll kill you, you know? Like just eviscerate them.
Yeah.
You know, but they never, it's just tantalizing. You know, they're always just hinting and sexualizing and, you know, objectifying. And it's like we said, I don't remember what comes next. I don't think we're not going to see any more rape gang or, you know, slinky outfits, but where is this headed? Because I can't remember after 35 years, you know, I'm seeing this for the first time as well. So it's interesting now to be at this point in my life, looking back, going, aha, interesting what they did here.
You know, Denise, I did have Catwoman vibes when I saw you in that black leather outfit, though.
the black, oh yeah, it was kind of a black leathery vinyl thing. Yeah, very with the cat.
With the cat, I thought I got some Michelle Pfeiffer vibes.
It was, you know,
meow.
But at least you saw her, you know, get some action. You know, right? Just like that's what I was always saying. Like, why don't you let Tasha be the security chief and give her some action?
That would have been a great turning point if at one point we do get to see her beating them up or, you know, winning the battle or whatever. And then there's this moment where she's like, okay, I think I know where I'm going. I think I can do this. I think, and that kind of turns her life into that direction of, you know,
it connects the
control.
dots. It connects the dots. She obviously has talent and strength in that area.
You can see that she's a survivor in that scene. There's scars, you know, that makeup was applied. And I noticed that.
Really?
And that added, it was such a short scene, but that added depth to the character.
Was that the cat though that did that?
That was Freddy Krueger. I think it was pretty
the
major.
Yeah, because it was like 5. It looks like cat scratches, and I'm thinking, why are you okay? She's been an orphan since she was 5 on this Turkana 4, and she's in. This is the outfit she gets into. I mean, what it just, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking she would be in like total combat survival gear, that would make sense for weather and for climate and for, survival. This looks like I'm going to, Studio 54.
All right. Well, speaking of Studio 54, we've got Faith Howell on the Enterprise D bridge, partying it up like a savage. How are you today, Faith?
Yeah, good. I really I feel like this is the first episode so far this season where I really started to get that, this is my comfortable Trek. This has, the space element, it has the science. I love me some rock talk, so reference her for a second, but definitely I think you guys hit all my big points. I love the sweaters. I definitely was going, hold up now, so we hit warp 10, why are we not all lizards? I feel like there was something missing here. There's some continuity missing. I know that's like 20 years in the future or something, but anyway, so I giggled at that a little bit. But overall it was a fun watch, and I'm hoping for more of this kind of fun episode.
Speaking of continuity, Faith, I thought of when Picard had the scene with his mom. I was thinking in the new Picard series, his mom dies young, right?
But because what was going on was sort of their wishful thinking, I feel like you could justify that into maybe he had thought in his mind that this is what she would look like had she lived. And so I think you can kind of force those puzzle pieces together. It definitely, you're losing a little elbow grease in there for sure.
Yeah.
But
I did like the scene with them. I thought the scene was very touching and emotional.
It's not like this Uncle Sisko's that got lost somewhere in the story. If you guys remember those, we had those early on. Sisko had some brothers and a sister or something we never hear of after season 3.
Oh, the sister,
yeah. So and Joseph Sisko was dead according to one scene, so I don't know, I'm gonna let
the
it slide
first
on the card on this one. Yeah.
All right. Great stuff. Thank you, Faith. Chris McGee is here, ready to drop some knowledge bombs on us. How are you, Chris?
Oh, I'm going to save some of those knowledge bombs for the after party. But
nice.
I don't know what else I can say. Well, that hasn't already been said. We can save that for the. It gives you a reason to check out the things left unsaid later. So, we'll mention that I did like when Riker introduced Argyle as one of our chief engineers, which absolutely makes sense since they got rid of the last one, McDougal. So here's the next one. I'm sure he's going to be around for a long time. I will also mention that I'm sure that the special effects cost a fortune when they were made back in 1987. And they were gorgeous then, but they're even more beautiful now with the higher resolutions in HD. I can't wait till we see this in 4K HDR with wide color gamut, and I hope we don't have to wait 30 more years for that. And lastly, I'll mention, Ryan, did you happen to notice any NAMs in this episode?
Oh, let me check. I don't think so, actually.
Mentions.
Let's hear it. Non-appearance mentioned by Chris McGee.
When they reach Galaxy N33, Data mentions a protostar forming. So the protostar, that counts, right?
Heck, that is so clever. We got to count it, right, Cirroc? What do you think?
From Prodigy.
I had it in my notes.
That's good. That's good.
And the last thing I'll say is the phrase of the episode. My favorite phrase of the episode is "such dangerous nonsense."
Which is a non-appearance mention for. No, we can't do that. All right. because then if we mentioned an actual show, that would be terrible. Matt Boardman is here. How are you today, Matt? Everybody, did you know Matt Boardman's an amazing graphic artist? How are you?
Hey, how's it going? Just to kind of piggyback on what Chris said there, it's actually pretty amazing. Once they did we grew up watching Next Gen, and it was very mushy because of that transfer over to tape. But now that they went through and they digitally scanned the footage, yeah, those models are absolutely beautiful. And we're getting to see details on them that we hadn't seen before. So that was always super impressive, including when I worked on season 2, we had to paint out a Band-Aid that had fallen on the Enterprise and somebody had just painted over. So, so you got to see details that you wouldn't normally see. But no, this is a fun episode. There's not much more I could say that hasn't been said about it, but I really like the moment when Picard sees his mom. And if you remember in that, they've kind of retconned that a little bit in Picard season 2, but he says in that episode of season 2 of Picard where he says, I always would picture my mom as what she would look like when she was older. And like that kind of made this, and even watching it through this time, made that moment between the two of them even more poignant, more special to me. And there was even, and this is kind of, I haven't caught this before, but there's that moment when Riker walks up to him after he sees his mom and he's just standing there and he has this very vulnerable moment at the time. And then quickly he's like, oh, wait, I'm the captain. I have this persona. I have to, but you can see, I mean, there's almost a tear in Patrick's eye at that moment. It was so well played, it was so touching that I really loved it. And then, of course, I love the journey of Wesley, and I just think it's great that now we get this is kind of one more this is that launching point as he's made that acting ensign.
Yeah. At least we didn't have to wait like 5 seasons for that, right? At least they're like episode 5, give them what they want. Well, great stuff. Cirroc, any final thoughts, Denise, before we run off?
Was the actress that played Mama, she's Greta Ware, right?
I don't know. Cirroc, do you have that pulled up? Let me check.
She was a formidable actress.
Yeah. Herta Ware.
Oh, yes. That's what her name is. I'm trying to think. I think she has worked with some really major European directors. I don't have my phone here in front of me to pull up anything, but I just remember how impressed. I mean, we were really excited to have her as a guest star on that episode. She carried such weight. Once in a while you'd have these guest stars that would come on and you would go, whoa, really? And she was one of them.
Yeah, I like that scene. Actually reminded me the way that was backlit, her shots were backlit, reminded me of the 2001 Space Odyssey at the end of the movie when he's seeing himself in the future and in the past, and the way they lit that scene similar.
Wasn't she in the second 2001, the next one? Didn't she play the mother?
2010.
Yes. Was she in that movie?
She was in 2010.
She played the mother.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's funny because
her hair was being brushed by the invisible person.
So yeah, that's crazy. That reminded me of that movie. That scene with her and Captain Picard.
Wow.
But I thought it was one thing I wanted to mention was when the one officer was caught behind the wall of flame in this episode. That officer was Dennis Medalone, ladies and gentlemen.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Cirroc catches Dennis every single time.
Every
man, whether
time.
he's a Klingon or whether
Such a
it's just
cool
a
guy,
leg.
though. He's such a cool guy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I had a lot of good times with him. And so I was like, oh, Dennis made his first appearance on screen in this episode. The other thing that stood out to me, I guess I didn't notice it before, but there was a small scene where they kind of cut to the Starfleet skirt on one of the officers back there. And I was like, oh, I didn't really pay attention to that fashion design. It didn't really carry on into Deep Space Nine. Didn't make it to our show,
sadly.
It doesn't go that much further on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. I heard Avery Brooks was fighting hard to keep them, though. No.
Yeah, no.
I know.
But it's funny because I do see people cosplay as that when I go to conventions, and now I finally know where it comes from. Oh, that's where that cosplay comes from. I do like the spin-off of this show, the Kaczynski Method. I thought that was a very good spin-off. And since we were talking about battlefield commissions, I felt like we have to bring up the commish, Michael Chiklis, in honor of Aaron Eisenberg. So I'd throw that in there.
You made Homer smile for the first time all day. It just happened. Good work. Beautiful. All right, everybody. We got to roll out. Did we say welcome back, Homer? Welcome back, Homer.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you, Melissa, Mohamed, Eve, Dr. Anne-Marie, Justin, Homer, Dr. Stephanie, Jed, Mai, Dr. Susan, Chris, Carrie, Tierney, Faith, and Matt, for myself and Denise Crosby, Cirroc, Lofton, Aaron Eisenberg. Thank you all so much. We will see you next time. And until then, always remember the seventh rule.